I don't know if anybody has been taking a look at that, but the price of silver and gold both shot up today. But it's just one day though, right? One day does not make an investment, but it was nice to see that. I had a theory that a lot of the selling was sort of forced selling, that the pressure was sort of this there's this momentum that can happen in the price of an asset when there's sort of a major drop because people have a lot of people buy with leverage, especially on speculative assets like silver. Silver had gotten into the crazy range in terms of pricing, and when that happens, what occurs is that when the prices drop, people that even those that don't want to sell, some of them have to sell. Which pushes the price further down. So you tend to have overreactions in market prices. So think of it like this. Think of it like imagine if you go out and you buy a building and you get a big loan for the building and the loan is contingent on the building maintaining its value, right? So then something happens and let's say you have no extra money sitting around, no extra cash to do anything with because all your money's tied up, which is very dangerous by the way. And then the value of the building drops. And then the bank comes and says, okay, you're going to have to either put up more cash into this building, add to your equity, or we're going to make you sell the building, right? Because we don't want you to damage our collateral. That's kind of what that is, right? A lot of times, what people don't really know is that acquiring assets is job one, but really protecting the asset that you acquire, that becomes job two. It's like football, right? You got to work hard to get the ball, but once you get the ball, you can't fumble the ball. You gotta protect it. I've seen many occasions where a running back got a great run and he broke away and he's on his way, and then somebody comes along and like the NFL, they're really good. They'll smack it every time they don't tackle them. They smack at the ball when they try to tackle you. In fact, years ago, in when my Ohio State Buckeyes, I'm a Buckeye and a Hoosier. Right? That's I met my wife in Indiana, and I went to Ohio State. So I claim whoever's winning, I want to claim them. And there's a guy named Maurice Clarett who was one of my favorite players at the time. It was a real unfortunate situation that kind of happened with that. It was a crazy story. One day I'll tell you. And anyway, Maurice Clarett was the number one reason that that team went to the championship. And so in the championship game against Miami, who just played in the championship again, they keep losing. I don't know why. There was a play where the wide receiver got it, or that's why, sorry, the defensive back got an interception or something, and he starts running and he's taking off, and all the Miami fans are like, and Maurice, as smart of a player as he is, he went after the guy and he noticed that the guy did not protect the ball. The guy was running, and apparently, when the sideline is over here, you're supposed to carry the ball over here, so that if somebody hits it, it's going to go out of bounds. But instead, he was carrying it in the wrong hand. And Maurice mentioned that. Maurice, 20 years later, and I kind of know Maurice. We're like Facebook friends and stuff now. So it's really fascinating because I was really watching his whole career. He was so good at Ohio State. It ended abruptly, and that made me really sad. But anyway, Maurice mentioned, he said, I noticed that he was carrying the ball in the wrong hand. So because he did not protect the ball, Maurice made one of the greatest plays in Ohio State history. He jumps up and he grabs the guy's arm and pulls the ball away from him, right? Which was like, I remember thinking at that time I was a professor at Syracuse, and I was like, yes, oh my God, that was so smart. So anyway, here's the point. You got to protect the ball. Did you get that? If you don't know football, just what I'm saying is protect. You got to hold on to an asset, right? So, just like anything else, like marriage and a relationship. A lot of people know how to. You might know how to get the man, but can you keep the man? You might know how to get the marriage, but are you able to actually be married? Right? Those are two different things, right? A wedding day is not the same as actually being married. Just like acquiring an asset is not the same as holding on to the asset. So my theory on the silver thing was I said, my gosh, this silver's really crashing right now. And I said, I bet you there's a lot of speculators out there, like they always are. This is what happens when an asset goes up in value a lot, is everybody starts looking and they get FOMO. This is a common thing. They've studied this in thousands of research papers. And people get FOMO. You don't want to do this because you're smart. You're not like everybody. You're not a sheep. You're going to be a leader. And so what the sheep do is they all run and they say, "Oh, this is going up. It went up 80%. I'm gonna buy," and they all buy at the worst price ever. And then after that, it collapses because all the insiders start dumping. They're like, yeah, the suckers have arrived. Here, you can buy my silver for twice the actual value, and then I'll buy it back from you when you watch it crash and you freak out and you sell it again, right? And that's a trick of asset ownership. It's not fair. It's capitalism ain't fair. Did ever y'all do? Give me a guess if you know that capitalism isn't fair. How many of y'all have figured this out by now? That capitalism is not fair. Ain't nobody gonna feel sorry for you. Nobody's gonna tell you how. Nobody's really gonna teach you how the game works, in my opinion. You got to go out and get that on your own. And you know, and what happens is that there are people that win the game, and there are people who can't win the game, and it makes me sad. It's unfortunate. It reminds me of The Wiz when Michael Jackson was singing, "You can't win." You can't break even and you can't get out of the game. People say things will get better, but really they just staying the same. I love that song. That was such a good. Michael Jackson was so talented in that movie. Anyway, all right. So here's so let's let me stop just being a complete idiot today. All right. So just in case you're ever wondering, if you've ever wondered, how does Bitcoin compare to things like silver and gold in terms of overall performance? Let's look at the last 15, 20 years of the two. And I'm going to share my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. And I don't know if you've seen this or not. I don't know if we played this in class, but I think it's really interesting to see this. So here's Bitcoin versus gold and silver. So you got all three of these things happening, and this is a chart, and you're going to see this in a minute. So here it goes. And there's background music, so you can enjoy the show. Here it goes. Okay, so what do we notice here? First off, gold and silver are typically boring assets. They didn't get interesting until like the last year. Look at this. They're just like humming along super low, not doing much of anything. And then suddenly they just start to spike up. And you could thank your president for that. And I say that sarcastically because y'all know he's a little wild, and his wildness has created geopolitical instability, fractured trade relationships, and a decline in confidence in the U.S. dollar as well as the U.S. economic system, which has led to a spike in the prices of a lot of precious metals. Gold goes up because a lot of central banks around the world are acquiring tons and tons of gold to counter the fact that they don't love the dollar the way they used to. But you know what? It's like that old abusive relationship where somebody swears that they packing their bags and they're leaving for good, and the person just the abuser knows like, oh, you'll be back, you'll be back. They're gonna come back to the United States because it doesn't get any gooder than investing in the U.S. The U.S. is the overwhelming, undisputed heavyweight champion at building the strongest companies in the world, largely due to the fact that we're kind of scant on regulation, right? So there's a dark side to that for sure. It becomes the wild, wild west, but also in the wild, wild west, people are able to be very creative about how they do things, right? So but those who are not prepared for the wild wild west, they get shot in the back, right? So ultimately, in America, the biggest thing I can tell you is that, especially if you're black, is that you've got to understand how economics works. You got to educate your own kids. Just this morning, I was speaking to a brother that I'm going to do an event with. I'll put it up on the screen. His name's Etan Thomas. Etan is a former NBA player. He played at the Washington Wizards with Michael Jordan. And he's right here. He's a guy with the dreadlocks. You see it right there. And we're going to do an event in DC. We're going to be at Bowie State University. So if you live in the area, feel free to come by February 9th. And so Etan and I were talking this morning, and I did not know this, but Etan actually, a guy who I've respected for many years. I've known him for many years. He was a star at Syracuse. Before I was on the faculty, he was a star there, but he knew of me because of my affiliation, and I knew of him, and because he was a great player. And one thing that he and his wife did is, and he wasn't, out tricking in the streets doing crazy stuff. He got married many years ago to a young lady that he met who was on the basketball team at Syracuse. So they're college sweethearts. They have three beautiful children that are doing amazing things. And I did not know that till today. Etan said, he said, yeah, we homeschool our kids. And I said, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know you did that. Because his son is, I think his son might be almost 7 feet tall. So I was thinking, you'd be in public school. They'd want you to be out there playing basketball and all that. And he said, no, you have to. You have to educate because you don't because they're not going to learn what they need to learn in the public schools. They're not going to learn your values, right? So I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Etan is a solid Christian. He's very committed to his blackness. He wants to make sure his kids know their black history. Also, Etan, a guy who probably made, a good 40, 50 million when he played in the NBA. He wasn't the guy you saw on the cover of newspapers for blowing all his money on strippers and weed and liquor and nonsense, right? He made investments, and in fact, actually, if you were to meet Etan, which by the way, if y'all come to the event, you can shake his hand. He's a great guy. He's not gonna lead in terms of what's the word? He's not gonna lead with the typical arrogance you might see from somebody who was in the NBA. He's not going to lead with how rich he is. Um, he's a person that was raised with a certain type of substance. He was raised in Tulsa, and the substance and the integrity is what made me say, okay, this is a special guy, right? So long story short, you got to educate your own kids. Every black child in America should be homeschooled, even if they go to public school during the day. Did you get what I did you catch that? Did you catch that? I didn't say take your child out of school. I did not say that. Let me know if you understand what I'm saying. I want to make sure we confirm that you understand that I'm not saying take your child out of school. I understand you got to go to work, you got stuff to do. Sometimes being with the kids all day is hard. They get on your nerves. Um, but every black child should be homeschooled, even if they go to school during the day. That maybe that should be their educational side hustle. Because if you do not give your children an educational side hustle, then this system is going to eat your child alive. The system is sitting there like this, hungry, rubbing his hands, like doing the Birdman hand rub, waiting to get a hold of your black baby because your black baby is an asset for somebody else. He or she is a commodity. Perhaps they might be an athletic commodity, like, oh, we're going to get this Negro on the football field and he's going to score some touchdowns. Maybe they might be a commodity for the prison industrial complex. Maybe they're going to be a commodity. They're certainly going to be bred to be a commodity for corporate America. And if you don't know anything about uh, corporate America and these jobs that we worked so hard to get, that's the number one stressor for most black people I know. I know that they want to tell you that it's like police shootings and stuff, that that's the scariest thing for black people. I don't know any black people who've been shot by cops. I just don't. Or I don't know. Does anybody know a black person who wasn't doing nothing, didn't do nothing wrong? Like, because sometimes you got cousins that's out here in these streets, right? Does anybody know? How many of you know like a black person who was like just shot by a cop for no reason? Just like cops just came to his house just because they mad on a Tuesday and decide. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that maybe when you're talking about what the number one stressors are, you can't put that at the top of the list. Maybe the fear of that happening is at the top of the list, but not the reality of it, right? But then I want to ask you another question. How many of you know a black person who hates their job? How many of you know of at least one black person in your family, maybe yourself, who goes to work and it damn near wants to cry and is completely stressed out and angry and bitter and just carrying around a lot of toxic energy. That toxic energy is really bad for you because they are so angry about what they have to deal with on that job every day. And here's the crazy part: it's not even just black people. There are a lot of white people who feel this way. So this isn't even just a racial thing. I make it racial because I just like to make trouble for myself. I make good trouble. Right. I make trouble by making it racial because I'm black and I'm not gonna apologize for that. But really, if I was talking to a group of white people, they'd agree with me too. They'd be like, yeah, I don't like my job neither. They when I go to work, they just always want to take advantage of people and everything, and it ain't right. It ain't right. Right. This is an American thing. Capitalism, when you're not prepared, it's designed to have a sort of a predatory element to it. Remember, capitalism was connected to slavery and all these things. And the reason the conversation has to be nuanced, though, is that when people say, well, capitalism was connected to slavery, I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't have to be slavery, number one, unless you turn it into that, right? It's like a gun. If somebody says, well, guns are bad because guns kill people, I say, yeah, but you don't have to kill nobody. You don't have to murder nobody if you have a gun. I mean, you can use a gun for a lot of things. Or fire, and they say fire is bad because fire burns people alive. Yeah, that's one job that fire can do, but there's a lot of other things that fire can do. And then also the alternatives, right? When people say, well, that's why we need socialism or communism. I'm going to tell you, I don't care what ism you commit to. If you commit to any ism and you use that ism in the wrong way, or you inject that ism with a demonic spirit, that ism can be used to crush and destroy people. Don't you dare ever try to give me any type of ism, communism, capitalism, socialism, and somehow convince me that it's always good for everybody all the time, because I can point to examples where Joseph Stalin ran a communist country and killed 20 million people. I can point to where, in China, when 20, 30 million people starved to death because the government miscalculated how much food they needed, right? So at the end of the day, it's not the isms that are going to save you, unless you talk about youism, meism, usism. Those are the isms that I can get with, because at the end of the day, it really does come down to being prepared for the game that you're playing. So with that being said, let's move on a little bit. I forgot to mention too, if you want a Black Wealth calendar, we have about 30 calendars left. That's it. We'll be done. And you can actually go to Black Wealth calendar. I know we're like a month. So the January part has already happened. So we discounted the price to let you buy the last 30 if you want to. I guess they'll be gone by today. So if you go to blackwealthcalendar.com, you can grab the last few calendars that are left. Feel free to do that. Use the code 60 off. It's one word at checkout, and it'll take a big chunk off the price. 60 off, all one word. Blackwealthcalendar.com. All right, so let me give you some information about what I would call the jobs apocalypse that is occurring, that's going to occur as a result largely of AI and changes in the economy. I saw a guy named Frank Ski out of Atlanta. I think he's out of Atlanta. Maybe he's in another city. I think he's Atlanta, who did a little video about it, and I saw it and I said, okay, good job. I agree with you. I thought he was like it was almost like a warning, like I just want to warn all the black people, and I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. Is it what's the warning? Come on, what is it, right? Like everybody y'all need to go make sure you vote for so and so, right? But it wasn't. It was something that was very direct and very deliberate and very clear and very true, which is that companies are really cutting jobs big time. Artificial intelligence is already eliminating millions of jobs from the economy. And in fact, just some quick stats. National University says up to 300 million jobs globally could be affected by AI and automation by the year 2030, but a lot of it's happening right now, with roughly 18 to 30% of work at risk of full automation. So that's a massive displacement. It doesn't mean jobs are going to be gone for good. It just means there's going to be displacement, which means people are going to have to retool, reskill, move to a different area, try something different. Number two, 40 to 59% of jobs in advanced economies are exposed to AI-driven disruption, including routine white-collar and service positions, far higher than in less automated regions. This is according to something called Botter Review. Um, 92 million jobs could be outright displaced by 2030 due to AI. A lot of roles like clerical, administrative, and customer service roles. Those are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest. In the US, nearly half of all jobs could see a significant share of tasks automated within the next decade. A lot of sales roles, things like that. Or try traditional roles, not sales roles, I'm sorry, traditional roles that have to be restructured. And a Senate report warned that AI can eliminate up to 100 million US jobs in the next decade. So this goes all the way as far as nurses, drivers, accountants, etc. And so the AI is coming, the AI is here. But you guys know what our term is for AI. What's the term? Do we know it, or do we own it, or both? What's the word? Put the word in the comment. The word is known. We've known AI. Okay, that means we've known. We've been knowing. We're prepared, right? So we know it. You learn the tools, and then when you own it, you own the companies that are going to make money from AI, because the most powerful people, the most powerful group of people in America, are shareholders of American corporations. That's hands down, without a doubt, the most powerful group of people in America. So when you buy stock, you are a shareholder in American corporations. American corporations don't really necessarily answer to politicians. They pretend to answer to politicians, but actually politicians answer to them. That's why, for example, when you see Mark Zuckerberg getting dragged in front of a congressional committee, I want you to pay attention. They'll grill the person. They'll ask a bunch of questions and get real mean and get real nasty and embarrass the person. But then after it's done, nothing actually really happens. Nothing happens. They didn't go in and bust up Facebook and say, you're manipulating dopamine levels and harming children and doing this and doing that. No, they just put on the show because that's what they know the American people need. They're like, okay, we're not actually gonna do anything. We need them to feel like we're doing something. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put on a show. And that's why I have very little tolerance for political entertainment. Political theater means nothing to me because I like to look at substance versus flash. In fact, today when I was talking to Etan Thomas, the guy I told you about, I told him, I said, the thing I like about you is that you are substance. You're not just, a lot like, flashy athletes and all that. That's worthless, right? But you're a person of substance, and I respect that. All right. So anyway, moving on. Oh, by the way, Dr. Claude Anderson told me to tell you hello. I called him yesterday, and when we do the thing in DC, I wish he could come, but he's not well. But he gives his regards, and he also he wanted me every time I talk to him. It's really a funny conversation because he really wants to be in the fight forever, right? And we were talking about when he started writing his books, Black Labor, White Wealth, and Powernomics and stuff like that, which are two books every black person should read in America, without a doubt. He's on the Mount Rushmore of great black men and women in this country. And one thing he was basically saying was he said, if black people don't get it together, it'll be too late. Actually, he said it already is too late for a lot of people. So he used to say, if you don't get it together by 2013, it's going to be too late. Well, in case y'all haven't checked the clock, 2013 was 13 years ago. And if you really process it just from an economic standpoint, if you imagine, think about how differently things would have been if people, or how different things are for people who were making certain financial investments in 2013. Maybe instead of buying Apple stock for $250, you were buying it for $30. Instead of buying Bitcoin for $110,000 or 100,000 or 80,000, you were buying it for 1,000, right? So imagine if people really were interested and open to developing the ideas that would actually lead to prosperity and possibility, as opposed to being distracted. So many great things would happen. Like I was talking to a black entrepreneur once, and I was saying, I said, I just really think that sometimes we train our kids. Like we complain about how hard it is working for white people, but we groom our kids. We groom our kids and prepare them for the predators, right? We get them ready. We get them ready for the economic version of the Epstein files, because what we're doing is we prepare them for jobs, and that's it. I see it as grooming. Like we literally talk to our kids about going to school, going in debt in college so you can go get a good job, and we don't give them any other option. It's like, here's your path. This is the path you must follow, and that's it. And then they get in the lion's den, and they're getting eaten up by the lion, and they hate their lives, and they're very, very sad and stressed out. Maybe they luck out and get a nice position and make a little bit of money. I said, but it's unfortunate because all the studies show that jobs don't lead to wealth. They just don't. And so why would we keep doing that? And I think she said something like, she said, yeah, but I've worked with black people, and I've tried to work with black people, and I still do sometimes, but working with black people is hard. I said, yeah, but working with white people is hard too. I said, this particular person, I said, I remember you were going to sue your employer for racial discrimination. I said, so maybe the answer is not so much that black people are wonderful and white people are bad. Maybe the answer is that some black people are wonderful and some black people are not. Some white people are wonderful and some white people are not. But as a black man with a black culture who has a black perspective, it's easier for me to find wonderful black people that can align with me and understand me than it is for me to find wonderful white people that can align with me and understand me. Not because white people are inherently waking up trying to be evil. I don't believe life is that simple, but because we're just different. Sometimes I just don't get it. Like you and I can watch an episode of Seinfeld, you'll be cracking up. I don't get the joke. I've been watching Seinfeld for 20 years. like once a year, I'll turn on an episode of Seinfeld. I'll be like, okay, I'm ready to laugh. I'm gonna get it this time. I'm gonna get. I never laugh. I watch 10 minutes and I just want to vomit. I'm like, this is not funny. This is not making me laugh, right? But I watch Def Comedy Jam. I'm like everybody else, we falling out our chair and women going into labor and just you're right. Def Comedy Jam will have you like ready to like split your side and your face is about to fall off because you're laughing so hard. Seinfeld just didn't do it for me. Now, if you like Seinfeld, then that just means you're just smarter than I am because I never got the jokes. It made no sense to me. So culture matters, right? And so the question that we must ask ourselves is, what is it in our culture that leads us to groom our children, unconditionally prepare them, solely and explicitly prepare them, get them all dressed up and ready to sort of drop them into the boiling pot of American capitalism at a disadvantageous position. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with preparing your child for the economic system. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I think a better approach might be to really make sure that they have just a million and one options so they can understand what's going on and figure out where they want to position themselves. You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying that they shouldn't that you're a loser if your kid has a job. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that careers are bad. I'm saying priorities, right? And in fact, this particular person, she also said, she said, yeah, I tried to be an entrepreneur and it just didn't work out and I just didn't make that much money. And I said, yeah, I get it. I understand being an entrepreneur is hard. I said, but being an employee is hard too. And I said, what I really think, this particular person was highly accomplished. She was a really successful lawyer or something, corporate lawyer. And I said, I get what you're saying. I said, but also we got to understand that it's not just how talented we are that matters. It's where did you put your attention and your energy into? Where did you use that talent, right? I said, because you're a damn good lawyer. I said, you're one of the best out here. You're damn good at what you do. Your employer loves you. They give you awards and raises because you're so good at what you do. And I know how hard you work to get through school. I said, so I want you to ask a question, or I want to ask you a question. What do you think would have happened if you put that same energy that you put into your job and into your education and put that same energy into learning how to be an investor, business owner, everything else? I said, I speculate that because you are an exceptional person, you'd probably be as great at that as you are at this. But the reason you're great at this is because you put your energy into this. That makes sense. It's like our son. Our son is 6'9", and if I said to him, you could have been an NBA player if you wanted to. Now if he turns and says, "What are you talking about? I suck at basketball," and it's true, he's very bad. Right? I can't jump that high. I'm not that, I can't dribble that well. Yeah, but I could make the argument if I cared about that thing. We don't care. We don't pressure him about that. But if I did, I'd say, yeah. But imagine if you took all the energy that you put into the things that you're good at, and you put all that energy into being the best basketball player you could be. Then I bet you'd probably be much better. And plus, you're 6'9". Most people are not that tall. Now, again, not to say I wanted him to be a basketball player. I'm cool with what he does, but you got to understand that it's not like what you are is a result of what you chose to invest in, right? Like if I invest in oil and I put all my extra money into owning oil and owning oil stocks, then I'm gonna have a lot of money in oil. I'm gonna, when oil moves up, I'm gonna make money. When oil goes down, I'm gonna lose money. And if I look over here at silver, or if I look at Nvidia stock, and I say, well, I mean, why would I want to invest in Nvidia stock? I don't make any money from Nvidia stock. Well, someone would say, well, why would you think you'd make money from Nvidia stock? You haven't invested in Nvidia stock, right? So it's like when somebody says, well, why would I be an entrepreneur? Because I'm not a very good entrepreneur. I would say, yeah, because you never invested any time in learning how to be one, right? Skill set matters no matter what profession you choose. So at what I would say at the end of the day is, if the goal is to figure out what it means to be a free and liberated and economically healthy human being, we got to give our kids a wider range of possibilities other than just like, let's make sure we're well behaved so white people will hire us. Like that's not gonna work. It never worked before, and it really ain't gonna work in the age of AI. Because I'm the cynical. I don't think they like us that much. I think they tolerate us, right? Until they can find a better a replacement. And I would tell you, I think robots are a pretty good replacement for black because we got We got bones to pick. They're just like they replaced us in a lot of jobs by bringing, like they'll bring somebody from Africa and be like, oh, well, this is why our diversity is so great because we hired 4 Africans. I love Africa and I love my African family and friends, but that's not the same as African American. And African American, I think, comes with a little bit more baggage. There's a little bit more history. There's a little bit more of like, okay, why haven't you paid our reparations yet? A person from another country may just be happy to have a job because they're from another country anyway. And I know if I went to Italy and an Italian company hired me, I have no bones to pick. I don't know that you just had a civil war or whatever. I don't care about that. Like I can let you all scot free. I'm not going to hold you accountable to anything because I wasn't there when it happened. But someone who maybe was born and raised and has a legacy and lineage in Italy might have a whole different perspective. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? So ultimately, I think that the goal has always been to replace us in a lot of areas, even in sports. They love when like the European white guy or there's a guy in the NBA named Cooper Flag who's really really good, and he's like the new great white hype Larry Birdish kind of guy, and they love him because they're like, wow, finally a white guy who can play as good as the black guys. And for us, there's like a ton of black guys that can play at that level. But when a white guy comes along and he's actually that good, they're really excited about it. And I think that they should have a right to be. I really do. I really believe that people tend to like people that are similar to themselves. And I'm not offended by that at all. I just wish we would embrace the same idea. Like I think that it would be beautiful if we realize how much power we actually have. Like if we really understood that we don't really need our athletes really don't need the NBA and the NFL at all. You've got everything you need. If you pull together like some of the best thinkers in your community and you give them a few $100 million and say, let's create a sports league, it won't be as big and as powerful as the NBA or the NFL because my God, the NFL took 100 years to develop to this level. But we can go out here and make, a nice $100 million annual profit and call it our own and pass it to our kids. And $100 million annual profit means you then have a multi-billion-dollar asset because according to the way asset prices are formed and valuations are formed, you just do multiples, right? So the multiples of that 100 million is in the billions. Then it could become something amazing, right? And I see Jen mentions Ice Cube. Yeah, Ice Cube's doing really good stuff. I like Ice Cube. He and I talk every now and then. And in the Big Three League, I think is a good example of that for sure. I don't know all the ownership structure of the Big Three League, but I don't know the details of that. I don't know how many other people have their fingers in the cookie jar, so to speak. But still, it's great, And I think Cuba's a great guy, and from the conversations we had, I got a sense that he seems to get it. He really, in fact, I know he gets it. I know he gets it, and so that's really great to see. And I think that there should be more people like that. I think they have to come out the closet. But until they do, I think that it's going to be up to the community. It's up to you. You're the parents, you're the leaders, you're the social workers, you're the school teachers, you're the ones that are going to make the difference, not the celebrities in Hollywood for sure. But anyway, let's move on here. Let me give you some tips in terms of how to adjust to this new economy that's coming. If you haven't got my list of favorite AI stocks and stuff like that, just text the word stock to the number 87948 and I'll send you the list. And it's a pretty basic list of just AI companies that I think are going to be well positioned to do well. So just text stock to 87948. All right, so a couple of things that you can do to prepare for the job apocalypse that's going to happen with AI. One, multiple streams of income is going to be really important. Having the ability to have income coming from more than one source is just almost like a requirement of the new economy. It used to be optional. Now I think it's becoming mandatory. And multiple streams of income might just start by having healthy relationships with other people that have an income stream of their own. So I think there is an economic value to romantic relationships that has been lost. We think of dating as just something about having sex and stuff like that, but actually dating is deeper than that. It can be a method of survival. It doesn't have to only be that, but it should be part of the equation. It certainly can be a method for self-destruction. If you want to destroy yourself and you're doing well and you really want to ruin your life, just go date the wrong person. I know people who died because they chose the wrong man or the wrong woman. So just be thoughtful about that. Number two, I would upgrade to AI proof skills. Some things like critical thinking, leadership, sales, creative strategy, human connection, high level problem solving. I think human connection is really powerful. Like I've talked to my partners, team members, whatever you want to call it. I don't have employees because I don't want anybody to be subordinate to me. So no one works for me. They work with me. And I just told them, I said, you know, in the age of AI, I think we have to think about what it means to be human. And so if you are human and you can do human things that AI cannot, like getting on the phone and having a meeting with somebody, or traveling somewhere and sitting down and having lunch with a person to make a connect, then that makes you really valuable. Like, human skills are really important in my mind. Like, I really I started working with a guy named Manny, who I really like a lot. If you come to the convention, you'll probably meet him, if you see me or something. And I said, what I like about you is that you will go in the room and you will shake hands with people and meet them and connect with them. And I think that's a really powerful skill to have. A lot of the stuff that people do on a computer and stuff like that, or even some strategic decision making skills, don't have as much value as they used to have. Number three, strengthening financial security now, stacking your emergency fund, reducing high interest debt, lowering your monthly obligations, is important, because what you're doing is you're kind of preparing for the storm. You're kind of battening down the hatches and making sure that if things do kind of go left, you're kind of ready for that. That's really important. All right. And number four, learning how to invest consistently. That's critical. We've talked about that a lot. And then also, if you this new economy is built for people that can keep learning, make pivots, develop strong networks, and stay aware of opportunities early. So a lot of times, being able to move quickly into new fields and things like that as they emerge is a survival skill I've seen a lot of people use. So maybe if that's not who you are, then you can get around people that think that way, and that can make a big difference for you. All right, now what I want to do is I want to go take a digital field trip to Instagram really quick. And by the way, I don't know if you guys know that I'm on Spotify. So if you look up my name on Spotify, you can find my podcast there. It really helps when you follow, because who else would be following me other than you, right? So yeah, and also I wanted to share something in the chat. Here's a list of if you like robo taxis. I made a list of robo taxi assets you can invest in if you're interested in this market. This is going to be big. Elon Musk just did something really interesting. He's merging SpaceX with XAI, and I think he's got these really big plans to kind of develop this giant multi-trillion-dollar entity that's going to like do a lot of stuff with robots and artificial intelligence and satellites and space travel and everything else. So it'll be interesting to see how that sort of shapes up. Um, Here's one thing I wanted to show you with Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is an interesting guy. He actually went to Indiana University, which is where I met my wife. And Indiana just won the national championship in college football. And a lot of people give Elon Musk, it's not Elon, I'm sorry, Mark Cuban credit for the championship, because he wrote big checks. And as you know now, you got to pay the athletes. They're professionals, which I fought for that for 25 years. I mean, I probably did 1,000 interviews speaking about the fact that it's a disgrace that athletes were not being compensated. Now you run into a new issue where they're going to have to sort of put some sort of a lid on it, because it's getting kind of crazy with athletes switching schools and every year and reneging on their contracts and stuff. I think there should be some sort of honor amongst millionaires. And also, the other issue that you have that's really going to be bad is the whole sports betting thing. Because even some of the athletes, if I'm not mistaken, I'm willing to bet you that in their NIL deals, some of them are promoting sports betting companies. But I'm not sure though. I don't know if the NCAA allows that. But it's kind of weird, because you're dropping them in the middle of this massive gambling culture, and then you're shocked when this 21-year-old gets caught up in a sports betting scandal, or or gets caught fixing games or something like that. It's gonna happen. And these federal investigations that you're seeing now, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be hundreds and hundreds of more athletes going to prison over this, but that's what they do. Malcolm X used to say the white man will sell you the liquor bottle, and then he'll lock you up because you're drunk. And I'll tell you what, this is what's going to happen. They're going to dangle the carrot in front of the athletes, and then when they grab it, they're going to say, "Oh, you're under arrest," because eating carrots is illegal. So just be careful about that. All right, now I want to share something with you. Mark Cuban. Let's go back to him. So here he made one of the most famous stock investing trades in history, actually, when his company got acquired back in the day. And here's a little video about it that I thought was really interesting. And let me know, give me a yes if you can hear it. And I'm going to play it for you now. Here it goes.
Did you know a man became a billionaire by selling glorified internet radio for more money than most Fortune 500 companies were worth? In 1999, Mark Cuban owned Broadcast.com, a struggling startup that basically streamed audio online. Nothing revolutionary, just radio on the internet. But Yahoo was desperate to look innovative during the dot-com bubble, when any internet company could be worth billions overnight. For 72 hours, Yahoo executives convinced themselves that streaming audio was the future. Cuban knew his technology was essentially worthless, but he played along. The final price? $5.7 billion, the largest internet acquisition in history. Cuban immediately sold his Yahoo stock and diversified into safer investments. Yahoo executives? They held their shares, believing their own hype. Then March 2000 hit. The Nasdaq peaked and crashed, losing 78% of its value over 30 months. Yahoo collapsed from $128 billion to $8 billion. Cuban's timing was perfect. He sold overvalued assets to greater fools and became one of the few dot-com billionaires who kept his wealth. Did you know a man became a billionaire by...
Okay, did everybody catch that? Let me know if you caught the message there. Did y'all see that? Now, the whole part about his company, broadcast.com, being stupid and worthless, I don't know if that's true or not. But the part about him diversifying his wealth was beautiful. It really made me have a lot of respect for him. And from what I understand, the specific strategy he did was something that we've talked about when we do our stock options class, which is something called a collar. And that's basically all that is to me. I think of it as the count your blessings strategy, which says instead of thinking about how much more money you can make and letting greed become the death of you financially, you still maintain a healthy degree of financial ambition. You still position yourself so you can benefit from the upside, but you don't sort of leverage everything. I really believe that celebrities misguide people, and I love Eddie Murphy so much. I watched his documentary, and it was really really good. He's such a smart man. But one area where he and I would have a healthy disagreement is when he says that you should never have a plan B. He says because if you have a plan B, then you're not going to put all your energy into plan A. Well, who am I to argue with Eddie Murphy? But I am a person who's also a statistician. I know about how many, for every one Eddie Murphy, there's 10,000 people that gave everything to become the next Eddie Murphy and didn't make it, right? And so there's a little bit of for him, he might be impacted by something called survivorship bias or self-selection, but not self-selection, that's a different kind of bias. But survivorship bias says you're only seeing the one person who made it. You're not seeing the 9,999 people who tried and failed. The NBA is bad for that. They'll show a bunch of black guys on TV playing basketball for a living, and every little black boy thinks, "Oh, that could be me." But no, all those guys hit the genetic lottery. And Etan Thomas does a good job of explaining that. Etan, the NBA player that I'm doing the event with in DC, he says, I was 6'9", 240 pounds. Most people are not that big. If you remember Etan when he played, he was big and muscular, and he was a big power forward. Most guys don't even grow that tall, right? So the point is to say that Mark Cuban, what was great about his strategy was he didn't say, "Oh yeah, I've got $2 billion and let me see if I can turn this into 10." He said, "I've got $2 billion. Let me secure the bag first." Not what they call it, blow the bag. They had a whole BET show about called Blew the Bag, where they celebrated black men who wasted all their money. He wasn't thinking I'm gonna blow the bag. He said I'm gonna secure the bag and protect the bag and hold on to the bag. So what he did was he diversified. Number one rule, first thing you should do. If all your eggs on one basket, if that basket drops, you are done. That's why having a job and having your job be your only source of income is the worst economic strategy you can ever have. Because not only do you not have the financial security of having a stack of resources, but number two, you're only getting all your income from one stream. So if they cut that off, it's gonna be an economic shock unlike anything you can ever imagine. So he diversified. And then on top of that, he basically did a strategy called a collar, where he sold an out of the money call option. That's where you sell some of the upside on the stock, and then he used that to buy puts. Puts are what you buy. It's like it's insurance for the stock market. Any asset that you have that's valuable, you should have insurance on the asset. So he got insurance on his stock, and I'll be damned if it didn't happen that shortly after that occurred, the Yahoo stock plummeted like 75, 80%. Everybody who didn't do that, everybody who wasn't diversified, who had nothing to protect them at the bottom, got killed. They got destroyed financially. So everything beneath you can collapse. Never believe anybody when they tell you that something has no risk attached to it at all. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And if I can protect myself just in case, I'm going to do that. Because the thing is, the world has not shown you everything that it can be. The world has not shown you everything that can happen. Right? We have, when I used to sit and when I used to do research at Syracuse, we would look at all this financial data for the last 120 years. But every few years, something new would happen that wasn't in the data, something that we'd never seen. Like, whoa, we'd never known what it's. We've never dealt with a world where suddenly the internet's here, and now you can just buy a book online, and everybody's free to sort of create these online businesses and all that. It was a whole new economy. So now you're going into a whole new economy. It's a whole new regime. Things are going to happen that you never anticipated. Things are going to occur that were completely unimaginable just 10 or 15 years earlier. I encourage you to be prepared for that. And the way you prepare for that is you start with diversification. So Mark Cuban, shout out to him. That was a very intelligent thing that he did, and I have a lot of respect for that. If stocks are your thing, we are going to meet for a stock market investing class at actually at noon Eastern today. If you want to join, do a free trial, you can go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. So feel free to join us for class. All right, so I'm gonna share one more thing I put on my Instagram. You guys know my Instagram. I just share stuff. I just think it's just I don't know. This is what I do. All right, so here is something I also did. I did a lot of other stuff. Like I did another video about the financial traps that
Did you know?
take down most men. I thought that was an interesting topic to hit. But let me play this one for you. This is another clown video. Like I'm not saying that I'm not making fun of anybody, but don't be a clown. You want to be financially smart. So here's another clown video. So here it goes. These are I call it clown economics. Maybe we call it clownonomics. So we're not going to be clowns anymore. We're going to be kings and queens. So here we go.
I don't trust the stock market, but I love me some lottery tickets.
I can't invest right now. I'm building a relationship with DoorDash.
I'm broke, but at least my outfit costs more than my future.
I'm not broke. I'm just prioritizing my lashes over my legacy.
I don't invest for my kids because my car needs emotional support.
Why would I budget when I have all these credit cards?
Why do I need an emergency fund when I can just go pray about it?
Okay, so let's hit one issue at a time and why this is in the video. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I know some people get offended by this, but it's not meant to be offensive. It's really meant to talk about common mistakes that we make when it comes to our money. And so let's talk about the lottery ticket one, right? So let me play it and I'll pause it. Here it goes.
I don't trust the stock market, but I love me some lottery tickets.
Okay, so what I don't get really is when people they avoid investing in the stock market because they say, oh, it's going to crash, but it always recovers, and that's the crashes are when people make the most money. But then also it's sort of like you'll say that you're afraid of the risk over here, but then you do all these other risky things over here, right? The food that we eat is very risky. Having one job working for your oppressor where they can destroy you financially with the snap of a finger, that's very risky too. And then also the lottery ticket thing is really funny to me. And I think that that's a real thing. They did Black Jeopardy on Saturday Night Live, and one of the jokes was your boss wants to take $50 a week out of your check and put it in your 401k. And Leslie Jones says, "You better give me my $50 so I can buy me some scratch offs." And people thought that was funny because they said, "Okay, this is typical Black behavior," which reminds you that economics is very cultural. So Black culture is identified as a culture where there are people. Tell me if you know people like that. Tell me if you know people like that won't invest, but they will go buy some lottery tickets and buy some scratch offs. And there's a psychological reason behind that. It's really a sort of a product of the trauma mixed with the economic desperation, which is traumatic in itself, right? So trauma leads to trauma responses. And so this dopamine from getting this lottery ticket kind of numbs the pain of just feeling black in America and the trauma that you've experienced. But then also sort of this idea of the pie in the sky dream gives you again the dopamine. It gives you that good feeling, that warm fuzzy feeling of like, well, what if I do win? In fact, the lottery is fascinating because they actually do an amazing mind trick. Anybody ever go see where people buy lottery tickets and they always ask you like, if you win, do you want your money in a lump sum or do you want payments? Or do you want to get $50,000 a year for the rest of your life? Anybody ever seen that? Where they would do that? I don't know if they still do that or not. No, oh, y'all can let me know because I don't buy lottery tickets. But I've just watched that. Have you ever you remember that? Anybody ever seen when they do that? Well, the reason they do that is not because they think you're gonna win the damn lottery. They know you ain't gonna win. You ain't gonna win a damn thing. Like if it's Powerball, you're not gonna win the power. I don't want to say it like that. I don't want to be a dream killer, but come on. They do that because they want you to fantasize, right? I want you to watch a person's face when they ask them that question. Like, so if you win the $1 billion, do you want to get it all in one? Do you want to get half a billion in a lump sum, or do you want to get $10 million a year for life? And the person be like, oh no, oh gosh, I don't know. And they're smiling because it feels good to imagine winning $1 billion. So they're just playing with your head. That's what they're doing. They're just, they're lying to you like a pimp lies to a pretty girl. That's, they sweet talking. They're sweet talking you out of your panties, financially speaking. All right, so here's the next part. Let's go to the next one.
I can't invest right now. I'm building a relationship with DoorDash.
Okay, there's nothing there to say, not much to say there other than the fact that a lot of people will say they don't have enough money to invest, which is a lie straight from the depths of hell. Because if we had no money to invest, we wouldn't have enough money for DoorDash or fried chicken or going to the club or buying bottles of liquor or buying new sneakers or buying iPhones every year. All the things that we spend money on, we wouldn't be able to afford those either. What it is it's about priorities. That's all it is. It's really priorities. Even if a person has a low income, if they really prioritize investing, like, oh my God, you must do this, they're gonna do it. They get it done. The problem is that you were never raised in a culture where investing was prioritized. But looking fly, like wearing like fresh clothes or whatever, becomes a priority. And I know women who who would never like not get their hair done. Like that is an absolute mandatory budget item. And I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that culture matters, priorities matter. I know a woman, Estia Brown, who did something I've rarely seen, where she said that she just told herself for a year, I'm not gonna go get my hair done. I'm gonna do it myself, and I'm gonna take all that extra money and I'm gonna put it toward buying a property. And she bought her first property in Brooklyn, of all places, which was very expensive. And now she's a landlord. She has several properties, and people never believe she's a landlord because they always think the landlord's a white guy.
I'm broke, but at least my outfit costs more than my future.
Okay, that goes back to the other one, looking fly, looking good as opposed to actually being good. I think there's a whole lot of psychology theory regarding the need to look a certain way, because a lot of times oppressed people feel that if you look a certain way, if you look rich, then people will treat you better, right? So this whole idea of us being obsessed with what others think about us is really, really financially costly because then you spend money to purchase your self-esteem. That episode of A Different World, anybody remember that when Whitley went into the store and got offended because the white lady assumed that she couldn't afford the jewelry? So to prove the lady wrong, Whitley went in the store and just bought everything up. But then at the end, Sister Soldier gave her a lecture about it, and she decided to. I think it was Sister Soldier. Maybe I'm mixing it up, but she went back and gave it all back and said, I just want you to know how much money I would have spent here, but now you're not getting any of my money. And this really was important. This was an important episode because we spent the whole 60s, getting our heads bashed in just for the opportunity to go give white people our money. And that's just not healthy. That's not smart. And somebody said, okay, Akila says it was Freddie. Well, there was one where Sister Soldier was in it, but I don't remember. She did good. She gave a good little soliloquy. So there's more there's more to it, and you can watch it. It's on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. And I'll just finish it up real quick so we can and then because I thought the last one was kind of funny. So let me keep going. Here we go.
I'm not broke. I'm just prioritizing my lashes over my legacy.
I don't invest for my kids because my car needs emotional support.
Why would I budget when I have all these credit cards?
Why do I need an emergency fund when I can just go pray about it?
Right. So that idea of sort of praying about your problems or letting your problems happen and then sort of thinking like, oh, well, God's just going to fix it somehow magically, that to some extent is an artifact of trauma, which came from oppression. Not to say that prayer is not important, but there's a lot of times you may notice there's a lot of either talking about doing something or just sort of praying about it and then not having any action. And we all know that prayer without works is dead. And so basically, this sort of idea of saying, I'm not gonna take the time or have the discipline to prepare for bad things that are gonna happen. I'm just gonna let bad things happen, and because I want bad things to happen, because that fits with subconsciously, that fits with my victim narrative. That fits with the narrative, the story I've told myself about how being black always means I'm always going to end up last. I'm always going to go through hell. Bad things are always going to happen to me. When the truth of the matter is that, solutions really do exist. So, the financial solutions are out there. It's a matter of deciding to pick them up. I respect you for making the right choice. All right. So anyway, let's finish up for today. We're all done. Just a reminder, I'll be next week. The DC thing is going to happen at Bowie State University. I've never been there before. Bowie State. I think I might have spoken at Bowie actually once. Yeah, I think they did a really cool thing with cheerleaders or something. And I thought that was very cool. And so Bowie State University, February 9th. So if you live in the area, feel free to come by. And there's a QR code down the bottom, and you can like put your phone on it or press it maybe. I think you press it on Instagram, it'll take you to the URL. I'll try to put the URL in the comments as well. And I'll also text it out to you. So make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to the number 87948. Last but not least, we'll be meeting today at noon to do stock market investing. So if you want to join us and go through the markets and ask me questions about that, feel free to go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.